want a war, you're gonna get one.
Knock at the doors, the trust from my generation. I'll take the fall, the saints across the nation. And it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the frauds, the messing with me. Come on, come on, come on. Let's get out to the music. Play that fucking music. Listen to my music, yeah.
Welcome to episode 76 of Reliving the War, and welcome to the 24th of March 1997. It's the night after WrestleMania 13 and we have a new WWF champion. The Undertaker is now the WWF's top dog after he beat Psychosis in last night's main event. Bret Hart defeated Steve Austin in the submission match when Stone Cold passed out. Austin never gave up, so it was actually Stone Cold who was too legit to quit this whole time. Check out the WrestleMania review before watching this episode because the Hitman has a lot to say tonight. A 20-minute promo featuring Bret and Shawn Michaels is gonna eat up a lot of airtime on Raw later on, but it's still essential viewing. And as a quick side note, the WCW show has a new intro. The theme is the exact same, but all NWO members have been taken out of the footage projected on the buildings, and they also added the word live to the Nitro logo. Right then, here we go, another Monday night. Let's see what happened this week. Larry the Axe Hennig is shown in the audience at the beginning of Monday Nitro, and I read somewhere that this was a kind of message from Curt Hennig to the WWF to show he wasn't messing around with his WCW negotiations, and this appearance from Larry was done to help with leverage. I don't really know if that's true at all, but the Axe is here and he's gonna watch the show in the crowd. On Raw, Jim Ross announces straight away that Mankind is the number one contender for the WWF Championship. Work that one out. And Mick Foley is in attendance tonight on Raw's War. McMahon says that Bret Hart has a lot he wants to get off his chest a little later on before we go to our first matches. Owen and Bulldog versus the Headbangers on Raw, Dean Malenko versus Konnan, and Mortis versus Jerry Flynn on Nitro. As our Nitro opening match gets underway, it's announced that the New World Order are going to cash in their uncensored title shot opportunity. Ted DiBiase has given word to WCW officials that, get this, Macho Man Randy Savage will challenge Prince Iaukea tonight for the TV title. So, was the uncensored main event all for a shot at the TV title? What? The NWO just could have stole the belt and Prince Iaukea wouldn't have done jack shit. I'm not sure if the NWO can cash in again because it really hasn't been made clear, but I'm pretty sure they only have one shot and, well, Prince Iaukea for the TV title. Konnan surprises Malenko by beating him at his own game, but Dean quickly gets out of an armbar and K-Dog takes a few boots. We have a very loud audience tonight at Nitro and it always makes these shows better. It's great to see and it's great to hear. Malenko tries to wear Konnan down with an ankle lock, but the Dungeon of Doomer gets to his feet. He throws Malenko across the ring and the match resets. We then see a drop down leapfrog sequence where Konnan wasn't quick enough, but his recovery was good. Malenko takes an elbow to the back of the neck before we go to split screen. Six cuts a promo here and I'm convinced his buddies were behind the camera trying to make him laugh.
But if I botched things up like you did, pal, I would act like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Six is way too busy laughing here, but from what I gather, he sends some sort of message to Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero. I have no idea what's going on either, Six, so don't worry. Schiavone says that Six is saying he and Eddie are in cahoots, or at least that's what Sean Waltman is implying. Back in the ring, Malenko takes a rolling clothesline followed by a powerbomb. Malenko replies with a jumping heel kick, but he gets put back down with a drop toe hold. The match then came to an end when Dean countered this top rope move with the Texas Cloverleaf. Didn't look too hot, did it? After the bout, Malenko says there's something going on between Six and Guerrero. Whenever one of the two show up, the other isn't far behind. But Dean wants to shift focus onto Chris Benoit. Dean says he sees a lot of himself in Benoit, things that didn't age well right there. So the Iceman wants to give Benoit a chance to move up the ranks. Dean Malenko versus Chris Benoit for the US title will take place at Spring Stampede. Next up on Nitro, we had my new favourite wrestler Mortis taking on Goemon Jerry Flynn. The fact that Mortis came to WCW just to completely ruin Glacier's life makes me very happy indeed. And our mullet sporting kickboxing friend here, Jerry Lynn with an F, had no hope at all. Mortis was impressive here, showing some unique offense while also getting the crowd on his side. Mortis signalled for the flatliner. Tony Schiavone said this is the move Vandenberg has been talking about for weeks, and Mortis puts Goemon away with his finishing move to end the match. No sign of Wrath and no sign of Glacier here, which is a good thing. Over on Raw, we had a tag title match. The Headbangers became #1 contenders after winning a 4-team elimination match at WrestleMania. Owen and Davey tried to upstage each other during the entrances. It looks like their issues are still not resolved, and it all ends up boiling over at the end of this match. Things started off well. Owen and Davey worked together just fine, but before we went to commercial break, Davey ran into Owen while the King of Hearts was gloating on the apron. The two argued on the outside and Owen threatened to leave the match, but Owen was back when we returned from commercial break. Owen then started cheerleading when Bulldog needed a tag, and when Hart finally got in the ring, he was quick to tag back out, letting the tired Davey Boy Smith get back in when Davey clearly needed a break. Davey tags back out and he screams at Owen to get in and do his job. Owen then manages to apply a sharpshooter on Thrasher, but Mosh comes in to break the hold. Davey decides to jump in and hit Thrasher with a running power slam. Davey then tries to drag Owen over Thrasher, but Owen stops Davey and the two begin arguing. Things get really heated up. Owen wanted to win with the sharpshooter it seems, and Bulldog gets so angry that he pushes the referee down to the mat, resulting in the Headbangers winning via disqualification. A shit way to end this match, by the way, seeing as Mosh and Thrasher worked pretty hard at WrestleMania 13. Owen and Davey push each other around, and then it finally happens. Bulldog and Owen start throwing punches, and the tag champions go to war. Officials have to break up the fight, and Owen announces afterwards that he's tired of carrying this team. Owen then says he doesn't care about the tag titles, he wants the European Championship, and he wants a match with the British Bulldog. Davey says he doesn't care if Owen has 10 slammies. The King of Hearts was defeated fair and square back in Berlin, but Davey says he will grant Owen a title shot anytime and any place. Davey says it's he who's carried the team so far, and Owen says he doesn't care if Davey's his brother-in-law. Owen will prove once and for all that the King of Hearts is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. We then go backstage where Mankind says Uncle Paul has left him. Foley says he's going to become WWF champion very soon, but it won't mean anything if Paul Bearer isn't there to witness it. Mankind then says he doesn't want to go out and find Paul himself, and he begs for Bearer to come back to him. On WCW Nitro, we had a Parka vs Juventud Guerrera match, while Bart Gunn had a match with Triple H. Parka came dressed for the occasion, as you can see right here. Parka ended up getting the win with a diving corkscrew attack, a fun matchup here that kept the energy high inside the arena. A long recap video was then played that chronicled the rivalry between the Outsiders and the Steiner brothers. Rick and Scott then had an interview with Mean Gene Okerlund, and Scott says while the Steiners and the Outsiders have a lot of history, everything is still fresh in their minds. The Steiners want revenge for the Nitro after Sold Out, the car accident, and the attack on Rick at Uncensored. Rick says the NWO has tried to put him down, but the dog-faced gremlin is ready for Spring Stampede. And the promo ends with Rick just staring at nothing as Mean Gene sends it back to Tony and Larry. Triple H vs Bart Gunn was used to get Chyna over. This time Chyna actually got physical with a male wrestler. And just like Jackie a few weeks ago, Chyna performed a body slam on the outside of the ring. But what's different here is the fact that Bart Gunn had a chance to retaliate, but he decided not to do anything. So the whole moral dilemma of going after a female was played up a whole lot more. Bart paid the price though. Chyna rammed the former Smoking Gun into the ring post afterwards. This allowed Hunter to hit a pedigree, and Bart Gunn takes a loss on Raw. The Superstars of AAA return for another tag match on Raw, while High Voltage takes on the Public Enemy on Nitro. We have El Mosco, Hysteria, and Abismo Negro against Venom, Supernova, and Discovery. And look, I'm not going to pretend like I know who any of these guys are, because Mexican wrestling and lucha libre is simply not a topic I know much about. I wish I did, but I don't. I will say though that these outfits are fucking fantastic, and they put Ultraman over on WCW Nitro to shame. I'm sure some hardcore AAA fans are turning their nose up at my lack of knowledge here, and again, I wish I had some sort of investment in these characters, but I just watch for the insane moves they pull off. I think because we become so familiar with WCW's cruiserweights, it kinda makes these AAA guys feel like a cheap WWF substitute, and that's kinda unfair on the performers too. For me, Venom was the man of the match here. Just look at this springboard moonsault to the outside. Absolutely ridiculous. Supernova ended up getting the win for his team, so the babyfaces won. At least I think they were the babyfaces. How could a man who dresses like this possibly be a bad guy? During the match, Bret Hart cut a promo, and the Hitman wanted to know when he was going to get his time to speak his mind. McMahon promised Bret that he would have some time, and when Jerry started running his mouth to the Hitman, Bret once again told the King to shut up.
Well, come on out here and start blabbing.
Shut up, Brawler.
I like how this was becoming a running gag, but unfortunately it didn't last long. Over on Nitro, we had Public Enemy versus High Voltage, and look, I think most of you know by now I'm not the biggest Public Enemy fan, but even I can't overlook the absolutely brilliant reaction they got here on Monday Nitro. I wanted High Voltage to win. I think they deserved a break around this time period, but they played their roles in this match really well, and they got the crowd hyped up for the Public Enemy comeback. I'm not exaggerating either, the crowd was surprisingly very much into the match, and it comes across really well on TV. After performing a drive-by and after Rocco Rock performs an assisted sent-on through a table, Jeff Jarrett and Deborah McMichael make their way down to the ring. Jarrett then whacks Johnny Grunge with the magical briefcase, and I'm not even joking, 4 matches in, and as I script this video, I'm only noticing the blue and red turnbuckle pads this week on Monday Nitro. I must have just totally ignored it earlier on. Anyway, High Voltage got the win, and I'm happy they did. Even though the crowd didn't like the outcome, Robbie Rage and Kenny Chaos were due a win. Mongo then comes out and he wonders why his wife is conducting Horseman business with a fraudster like Double J. And Mongo starts shouting, "What are you setting me up for?" I mean, what?
I think I'm getting set up for a long walk over short here.
Tony Schiavone even says he doesn't know what the problem is. We all thought this was resolved, but there's still problems within the 4 Horsemen. You should still check this one out though, just for the crowd reaction to the tag team match. A couple of short promos next from Rocky Maivia and his dad, Rocky Johnson, while Lex Luger cuts a promo with his dad, the Giant. So Rocky Johnson wants to know why his son is such a disappointing jobber, and Rock's like, "Hey, what IC titles did you win, you fuck..." Only joking. The Rock says, "No, you're damn..." Okay. Rocky says he will never forget WrestleMania 13 and he'll never forget his dad hitting the ring to save him from the Sultan and the Sheik. And Rocky Johnson takes this opportunity to say Vince McMahon didn't pay for his plane ticket or his ticket to the shows. Johnson paid out of his own pocket to surprise his son, and I don't know if there was a little malice in this statement, but anyway. Daddy Rock says he was proud of his son winning the match, but when The Rock got jumped after the bout, he done what any father would do. Johnson then promises not to interfere in any of Rock's matches in the future, so he's pretty much saying, "Next time, son, I'm leaving you to get your balls knocked in. Thanks, Soul Man." On Nitro, it looks like the Giant is gonna fucking eat Mean Gene Okerlund. Mean Gene says Luger and the Giant will face Harlem Heat in singles competition, and the winner will face Hulk Hogan at a later date. I know, I'm not sure what was going on either. But thankfully, the big man clarifies by saying there's going to be a 4 corners match coming up at Spring Stampede. Giant versus Luger versus Booker T versus Stevie Ray. I find Harlem Heat's inclusion in such a match a bit strange here. Giant says Luger has helped him a lot, he's been a friend, and there's a good chance he'll have to fight the total package in order to get to Hollywood Hogan. But Harlem Heat also need to watch out, there's no telling what Luger and the Giant might do in this upcoming match. Luger says month by month the balance is shifting in this WCW vs NWO war, and it's shifting in WCW's favour thanks to a pretty big trump card. A trump card by the name of Sting. Lex tells Hogan to watch Spring Stampede carefully, it's gonna be the chokeslam or the torture rack, and Lex tells Hollywood to take his pick. The Honky Tonk Man joins us for commentary, and the sniff must have been of extremely high quality backstage tonight. Remember, we have Shawn Michaels back in the locker room.
I feel good. I'm hitting on about 16 cylinders. It's Raw and it's War.
Flash Funk versus the Brooklyn Brawler on Raw's War, Super Calo versus Psychosis on Nitro. Vince McMahon said Bret Hart is getting seriously impatient backstage, and I don't blame Bret either. This Flash Funk entrance takes forever. Honky Tonk Man was definitely off his tits during this episode of Raw though.
Brother, I feel the excitement. I feel excitement every day of my life in the World Wrestling Federation. Come on back, man. You gotta get excited, brother.
Brawler does what he always does. He gets in a few cheap shots and then he gets his ass kicked afterwards. A spinning heel kick almost takes Lombardi's head off. Funk followed up with a Hurricane Rana and an Exploder suplex that didn't look too good. And Brawler managed to get the knees up when Flash went for a standing moonsault. Lombardi went on offense very briefly, but he was stopped with a dropkick and another heel kick. And this was pretty much the end for the Brooklyn Brawler. Flash kicks the Brawler and he hits the guardrail on the outside. A plancha follows, and after hitting a diving crossbody and a side suplex, Funk put the Brawler away with a 450 splash. Over on Nitro, Sonny Ono cuts a split screen promo where it's announced that Ultimo Dragon will face Rey Mysterio at Spring Stampede. Can't wait to see that one. Psychosis brings Calo to the ropes to start us off and we get a break. Calo then takes a heel kick, plenty of heel kicks this week it seems, and Calo replies by laying in a few kicks of his own before performing a diving arm drag takedown. This looked pretty good. What didn't look so good though was Calo's baseball slide afterwards. Psychosis manages to set his opponent on the top rope and he performs a top rope wheel kick, hitting Calo right on the back of the neck. You'd think this would be enough to stop Super Calo, but no. A dropkick sends Psychosis out of the ring and we see a nice inverted Hurricane Rana where Calo jumped from the apron. And we see a vaulting senton that had very little room for error. All this impressive offense though wasn't enough to end the match. Psychosis ends up hitting a guillotine leg drop from the top rope to secure the victory. A good match here. Super Calo, I feel, doesn't get brought up all that much when people talk about WCW cruiserweights, but he was really good. Ken Shamrock cuts a promo on Raw while Chris Benoit battles Hugh Morris on Nitro. The Shamrock promo is short. McMahon wants to know why Shamrock stopped the submission match last night, and Ken says that Steve Austin was in a great deal of pain, and when Ken asked Stone Cold if he wants to give up, Austin was unresponsive. Ken quickly realised that Austin was knocked out, and to ensure no further damage was done, Ken stopped the match for Austin's own safety. Shamrock confirms that Stone Cold did not submit at WrestleMania, but he also couldn't defend himself. Ken really had no other choice. McMahon talks about Bret attacking Austin after the bout, and Ken says he stepped in to stop Bret Hart ending Austin's career. Ken wraps it up by saying he and Stone Cold have had words before, and Ken doesn't care much for Stone Cold either. But Shamrock says Austin is one of the toughest competitors he's ever seen, and that's something you can't take away from Stone Cold after the submission match. On Nitro, as Chris Benoit makes his way to the ring, Tony Schiavone says that Arn Anderson was attacked backstage last week after he cut his promo. I thought I totally missed this and was about to apologise for missing what was an important moment, but I ended up watching last week's Nitro back and there was absolutely no mention of Double A getting jumped backstage. Remember, Flair and Benoit cut a promo towards the end of last week's episode, and they too didn't mention anything about the Enforcer getting attacked. We'll come back to this a little later, but it's a great example of WCW giving fans mixed information, and I find stuff like this really annoying. The crowd chanted Horsemen as Benoit gained the upper hand. Chris was about to end it with a diving headbutt, but then Jimmy Hart caused a distraction that allowed Konnan to push Benoit off the top rope. Hugh Morris then got the win with the no laughing matter moonsault. Kevin Sullivan then hits the ring afterwards and Benoit gets attacked by the Dungeon of Doom. And get this, Mike Tenay says Sullivan is going to face Benoit this Thursday in Baltimore. Remember last time they hyped up their Baltimore match for weeks and it ended up being on a house show? Sounds like they're doing the same thing all over again. Surprisingly, Dean Malenko runs down to help Benoit, but he too gets taken out. And then Slick Rick gets in the ring and the Nature Boy gets physical for the first time since September of 1996. The crowd goes nuts for Flair, Rick clears the ring, and Dean Malenko stares at Chris Benoit just before Nitro moves on to its next segment. Right, the Bret Hart promo. All in all, it's nearly 20 minutes long, and that means there's a ton of stuff happening on Nitro while the Hitman talks about WrestleMania 13. On Nitro, there's a Faces of Fear vs Harlem Heat match, a Horsemen promo, and a Medusa vs Malaya Hosaka match. Let's quickly run down the Nitro stuff first, and then we'll hear what Bret has to say, because we still have 5 matches to cover and a promo after all this is done. The Heat vs Faces of Fear match was good and very physical as expected. Check out Booker T getting dropped out of the ring here. Booker T ends up taking the most punishment in this one, but Harlem Heat still got the win when Ming ran into Sister Sherry and Booker took advantage. Ric Flair and Chris Benoit then came out again to cut a promo, and I'm 100% convinced this was done to clear up the Arn Anderson confusion I spoke about earlier on. Benoit confirms that Anderson was attacked, but it wasn't backstage like Tony Schiavone said. No, it was back at the hotel room. So thanks a fucking lot, Tony, for making me skim through last week's Nitro again, because I thought I completely missed Anderson's attack. Benoit blames the attack on Kevin Sullivan, by the way, so this whole Horseman vs Sullivan rivalry is gonna continue. Chris then wants to know why Dean Malenko came out earlier on. He says he respects Dean, and one thing Malenko doesn't want to do is lose that respect. I mean, wasn't it pretty clear that Malenko was trying to help Chris? Flair talks about Roddy Piper again, and it's the exact same promo as last week. The Horseman told Flair that Piper couldn't hang it uncensored. Flair says he wanted Piper to be a horseman and not someone crying about staying at home with his family. And that's it, really. Rick also said that it's on guys like Piper and Flair to be great and show why they paved the way for younger talent. Medusa vs Malaya Hosaka was up next, and it was announced here that Medusa will face Akira Hokuto for the WCW Women's Championship at Spring Stampede. No word on why Medusa was selected over Luna Vachon, even though Luna was also claiming to be the number 1 contender. This wasn't a great match. This pin attempt here looked pretty rough, but Medusa ended up getting the win with her pinning German suplex. Check out the Harlem Heat match, but avoid the women's match. It just wasn't good. Bret Hart finally gets a chance to speak on Raw, and the Hitman starts off by saying he wants to apologise to his fans in Germany, Great Britain, all over Europe, all over Japan and the Far East, the Middle East. Bret apologises to his fans in South Africa. He makes a special apology for his Canadian fans. Bret apologises to the whole world, except America. As for the fans in the USA, Bret says he apologises for absolutely nothing. No matter how much Bret tries, no matter how much Bret beat up Steve Austin last night, even when Bret confidently won his match at WrestleMania, the way the American fans treated the Hitman made Bret feel like he lost. Hart continues on, saying this goes all the way back to WrestleMania 12 when the fans cheered a pretty boy like Shawn Michaels, and the fans allowed Shawn to screw the Hitman out of the belt. Bret sat at home afterwards and he felt the WWF needed a role model, a hero that people could look up to and not someone like Shawn Michaels. Bret then talks about Shawn posing for Playgirl magazine and he says this.
By the way, I don't think it was a girly magazine. I think it was a gay magazine.
Don't hold back how you really feel there, Bret. So Bret makes a comeback in 1996 to clean up the WWF. He beats Steve Austin at Survivor Series, he goes on to In Your House where Shawn Michaels costs him the WWF belt, and nobody did a thing about it. The only thing Bret could do was enter the Royal Rumble, and Bret said he had no problem beating 29 other guys. At the Rumble, Bret got screwed again, this time by Steve Austin, and the fans of the WWF somehow justify Steve Austin winning the Royal Rumble even though he cheated. Vince McMahon and Gorilla Monsoon then begged Bret not to quit and to think of his fans, so Bret decided to stay in the WWF to compete in the Final Four match. Bret then pretends to wipe tears from his eyes when he talks about Shawn Michaels' career-ending, life-threatening knee injury, while explaining how the WWF title ended up on the line at Final Four. Bret wins the Final Four, he becomes champion, and he gets no rest. He gets put into a match against Psycho Sid. Sid finds himself in the sharpshooter, but Steve Austin hits Bret with a steel chair, and somehow the American fans justify that as acceptable. Bret loses the belt, and as WWF fans see it, Bret went and cried to Gorilla Monsoon and he ended up getting a steel cage match on Raw for the WWF Championship against Sid. The Undertaker screws Bret this time, and The Undertaker costs Bret his 5th WWF title win. After being abandoned by his American fans, Bret decides he's going to walk into WrestleMania and give Austin what he deserves. and when Bret gives Stone Cold the beating that was coming to him, the fans cheered for Steve and they booed Bret. Bret says he tried to be everything the fans wanted to be, but the American fans don't know anything about guys bringing prestige and class to the World Wrestling Federation, and Bret comes to the conclusion that fans in America don't respect him. But the truth of the matter is, Bret doesn't respect them either. Bret wraps it up by saying the American fans coast to coast can kiss his ass, and then Shawn Michaels comes out to confront the Hitman. Shawn says that Bret doesn't need to explain that he wouldn't forfeit the belt like HBK would, because it would take a handwritten note from God himself to make Bret give up a title. Shawn says he lives his life openly and freely while Bret puts on an act when he gets in the ring, and this is something that bothers the Hitman. As for Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn reminds Bret that there was no submission last night. HBK isn't a Steve Austin fan either, but he says that even Bret has to admit that Stone Cold is one tough SOB for what he did last night. HBK continues on saying he isn't in the best shape to wrestle right now, and Bret can be very content in saying he's tougher than Shawn Michaels because HBK doesn't obsess about being number one the way Bret does. And Shawn then says he wrestles because he likes it, not like the quote Mark man here who believes the WWF belongs to him. The fans have the right to cheer or boo whoever they want, and they even booed Shawn at one point, but Shawn didn't let it get to him. Let me just cut in here and say that that statement right there was total bullshit. It very much did get to Shawn, judging by the way he was getting on after Survivor Series 96. But HBK wraps it up by saying there's something in the USA called the First Amendment, and that amendment gives people the right to live their lives the way they see fit as long as it causes no harm to anyone else. And Shawn tells Bret he can love America or he can leave America. Bret tells Shawn to get out of his face. Shawn squares up to Bret, and HBK wonders how Bret knows he posed for girly magazines, saying that Bret couldn't help himself and he had to flip through the pages. Bret turns away and Shawn throws the mic at the Hitman, hitting Bret on the back, and this makes Bret go on the attack. The Hitman targets the knee and Shawn finds himself in the figure 4 around the ring post. HBK screams in agony and Psychosis, of all people, ends up making the save. Bret goes back up the entranceway, he teases he's going to get in the ring, but he gets another round of boos when he doesn't fight Sid. And there we have it, the heel turn has been confirmed on Raw. We have Rocky Maivia vs Leif Cassidy next on Raw, while Jim Duggan battles the Renegade on Nitro. The Nitro match should be a nice palate cleanser, so let's check it out. We get a friendly handshake to start the match off, almost as if Duggan is saying, "You're a nice guy, but I'm going to beat you here in a few minutes." Duggan reaches down into the depths of his crotch and he takes out his tape. He then throws it into the audience so a lucky fan can have a hacksaw dick tape souvenir to take home and show the wife. And look, the guy actually gloats to the other fans in attendance. He's saying, "I got tape that sat right next to Duggan's sweaty chin slopper." Renegade gets to the ropes during a hacksaw waistlock, and when Renegade has to once again use the ropes to break a hole, he decides to get in a cheap shot. The Renegade's turning heel, guys. This is bigger than Bret Hart. Renegade starts using underhanded tactics, but this is Jim Duggan. He's not going to sell anything. Duggan beats the shit out of the Renegade, but a rake to the eyes momentarily slows Hacksaw down. Renegade begins attacking Duggan in the corner and Jim gets all angry. He pulls out another roll of tape. Always come prepared with 2 rolls of tape, guys, come on. And the Renegade ends up getting whacked and Hacksaw wins the match. Even in turning heel, the Renegade still couldn't pick up a quick and cheap win as expected when someone turns to the dark side. The focus wasn't on Rocky Maivia or Leif Cassidy during their non-title match on Raw. Bret Hart came out again and he said at the commentary table, Vince wants to know why Bret snapped, and Bret says he didn't snap, he just opened his eyes. We see footage of Shawn getting helped out of the arena, and Bret says he didn't invite Shawn into the ring and Bret was just trying to make a point. And what we see on the left side of our screen is the point. Bret's had enough and he won't stand back anymore when people stick their nose in his business. As Maivia continues to destroy Cassidy, McMahon wonders why Bret flushed his legacy down the toilet tonight, and Bret says it was already flushed down the toilet a long time ago by the wrestling fans of America, again reiterating that fans in Berlin, England and all over Canada still respect him. Rock wins with a flying crossbody and the Hitman attacks Maivia afterwards, again targeting the leg. Bret then leaves the ring to another round of boos, and Bret even flips off some kid in the audience. The kid deserved it, don't you dare boo his excellency, you little shit. Full-blown heel mode Bret Hart is here to stay and I'm absolutely ready for it. Next we had Savio Vega vs Ahmed Johnson and the Steiner brothers versus the Amazing French Canadians. No, not the Quebecers, the Amazing French Canadians. Seeing as the nation stood on the rampway during Savio's match, minus Farouk, who's out with an injury, this one felt pretty predictable. We did get to see another somersault senton from Ahmed Johnson, and we did get to see Ahmed hulking up by doing a little run on the spot, but interference from the nation led to the referee throwing the match out. Crush pulls Savio out of the ring and Ahmed throws down a challenge. If Johnson can beat any member of the nation in a match, then the Nation of Domination has to disband and they have to leave the WWF for good. Vince McMahon is a little confused about this challenge, but Ahmed makes it clear as day. The nation don't give an answer. Each member raises a fist before walking back to the dressing room. On Nitro, the French Canadians waste a little time by singing the Canadian national anthem. Scotty Steiner and Carl Ouellet start the match off, and it doesn't take long for Jacques Rougeau to get involved. Some impressive offense from the Steiners results in the French Canadians taking a timeout on the outside. Quick tags then allow Carl and Jacques to stay in the driver's seat afterwards, and Scott needs to tag out. Scott eventually gets a boot up when Carl comes off the top rope, and this gives the Steiners an opening. Rick gets tagged in, the dog-faced gremlin cleans house, and eventually all four men end up in the ring. Colonel Robert Parker then pulls Scotty's leg and Scott tumbles out of the ring afterwards. Steiner ducks when Parker tries to use the flag, but back in the ring, the French Canadians hit the Quebec crash and they should have won the match. The ref gets distracted by Scott, and so the match continued with Jacques Rougeau accidentally hitting Carl with Parker's boot. Rick then covers Carl and the match is over. A decent match here, but nothing special either. Still better than the Savio vs Ahmed bout though. The Nitro main event features that Randy Savage vs Prince Iaukea TV title match, while The Undertaker cuts a promo on WWF Raw. Paul Bearer has decided to show up and he's looking very anxious indeed. Paul says he doesn't want to speak with Vince McMahon, but there's something clearly on his mind. The Undertaker gets a great ovation on his way to the ring and he's got another new look. He's changed his trademark hat and he's got a new coat while still maintaining some of the old grey gear he wore at WrestleMania. Taker welcomes the fans to the dark days of the World Wrestling Federation. Taker says the championship belongs to the creatures of the night, and Undertaker will fight anyone who tries to step up. The Phenom thanks Sid for being a man and having the courage to step into the ring with The Undertaker. Taker says he will grant Sid a rematch. Taker then says his first title reign was short because he lost his edge, but with guys like Mankind knocking on his door this time around, the Phenom has to remain sharp and he has to remain focused. Mankind is the most dangerous individual in the World Wrestling Federation, but he makes The Undertaker a better gladiator. Paul Bearer then shows up and Paul says if Taker wants to beat him up, well he can, but Paul wants Undertaker to hear him out for just a moment. Mankind is then seen on the Titantron and he says, "Don't leave me." Paul says that everything he's done recently, he done it for The Undertaker, and then WWF Raw runs out of time and we fade to black. Seriously? I think the WWF legit ran out of time here, by the way. It doesn't feel like it was supposed to be an intentional cliffhanger, seeing as Paul Bearer and Mankind started talking over each other to try to get their points across. But we'll need to tune in next week to see what's going on. Savage vs Prince Iaukea then. The NWO come to the ring and Kevin Nash does this.
Right back at you, HBK! There is.
This was a reply to Shawn Michaels, who put up the click hand gesture last week on Raw. Tony Schiavone clears up the whole uncensored match reward thing by saying the NWO can actually ask for title shots at any time they please. This isn't a one and done deal here, but you can bet your sweet ass that WCW will totally forget about this stipulation and will go back to normality soon enough. If the NWO can just get title shots at any time they want, why is Dean Malenko facing Chris Benoit at Spring Stampede? What's stopping the NWO from booking this TV title match over and over again until they win the belt? Well, fear not, because there's no fucking way Prince Iaukea is winning this match. Savage starts it off with an arm drag, Prince then covers Macho after a shoulder block, and Savage takes a timeout on the outside. Back in the ring, Ikea pulls off a springboard crossbody that again only scores a 2 count. The Prince tries to keep the pressure on with a body slam and a back elbow strike, but he gets too confident and Savage dodges a flying crossbody. Savage has the match won, he hits the diving elbow, but Randy then decides to break the pin himself to deliver more punishment. Diamond Dallas Page then runs in from the crowd and he absolutely wrecks Vincent before the NWO keep him at bay. Page ends up getting thrown into the ring, the referee throws the match out, and Nitro ends with Dallas taking a beating from the New World Order minus Hulk Hogan and, strangely, Scott Hall. DDP takes a jackknife from Nash and an elbow from Savage. Even the Prince takes some punishment before Eric Bischoff gets in on the action, and Page gets leveled with a kick. Nitro goes off the air with Prince Ikea getting NWO spread on his back, and Randy Savage spraying a 0 on the back of Diamond Dallas Page. I liked the Bret Hart stuff this week, and I liked it back in 1997 too, but if we talk about the best overall show this week between Raw and Nitro, I think Nitro was actually better from start to end. You should definitely watch all the Bret stuff, that was the main focus of Raw is War. But on this night, Nitro had a better selection of matches, especially during the first 60 minutes. Here's how I would have scored it using the old scoring system. And with this victory, Nitro now has 36 points, Raw has 30, and we're still stuck on 10 ties. In the television ratings, Raw scored a 2.5 while Nitro scored a 3. That's pretty much a half-point drop for Monday Nitro this week, while Raw stayed the same before and after WrestleMania. Next week, Bret Hart interrupts the British Bulldog in a Owen Hart European title match. The Hitman has a few things he wants to say to his brother and his brother-in-law. Steve Austin also makes his return to WWF television. On Nitro, Roddy Piper returns and he confronts the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And the DDP vs Savage rivalry also gets turned up a few notches just 6 days before Spring Stampede. Thanks for watching this one, guys, and I hope to see you all next week.